Hello, in this lesson I'm going to show you how you can go about 3D modeling your own design of your puzzle using Fusion 360 if you're doing something similar to the puzzle that you can see in front of you here. I'm going to walk you through step by step how to create something similar to this, and then hopefully you'll be able to transfer the skills into your own design so that you can create whatever you want. Before we start, I'm just going to point out that on the left hand side here we have the browser bar. It's crucial that you use the browser bar whenever you're using Fusion 360, and as you can see on the left hand side here, I've got multiple different parts that make up this model. These are all individual separate components, which is crucial for this type of project because at a later date I want to 3D print or laser cut the individual components, and therefore I need them to be separate files or separate parts in the drawing. If I run my mouse up the modeling tree, slowly you can see each individual part is highlighted one at a time. And this is, like I say, crucial for this type of project. The other good thing that we can do is we can isolate or hide individual components to allow us to see other components in more detail. So if I turn all the blocks off temporarily, we can have a look at the frame and see how it's been made. The actual frame part itself won't be 3D printed or laser cut. Potentially this plywood base here you could laser cut a perfect square, but the frame certainly this would be handmade using some of the hand tools in the workshop. So I'm not really going to show you how to 3D model the frame in this lesson. It's more focused on the actual components that make up the inside of the puzzle. So with that in mind, I'm going to start a new file at the top of the screen, and I'm going to start by drawing the base component, which was just a square in the middle of the screen. So I'm going to click sketch rectangle, and then I'm going to select the bottom work plane. Notice that there are three to choose from, and I'm going to use this one here. The size of the square is crucial. Whatever size you make it, that is the size that the laser cutter will cut it or the 3D printer will print it. So your sizes are crucial and you have to pay close attention to these. When deciding how big to make your puzzle, I would suggest using a ruler and drawing out a square the size that you think it should be, and then measuring that square and taking the sizes and adding them onto Fusion. Note that the units used here are millimeters, so make sure when you're measuring you're converting into the correct units. To type in the correct units, I'm going to make this one 120 by 120, so you can see the blue box on the left hand side is highlighted and goes up and down as I move the mouse. I'm going to type in 120, and then I'm going to hit the tab key to move to the other dimension box and repeat the 120 instruction, and then hit return to lock the size in. This square can now be extruded to give me the base that I need for my puzzle. So I'm going to say stop sketch because I'm ready to extrude, and then I'll say create extrude. I'll select the square, and I can either pull up, which is quite difficult to get to the exact size that you want. So what I'm going to do instead is pull it up slightly and then change the number in the box. And in this situation, I'm going to use 4 millimeters because that is the thickness of the plywood that I would use for my base. So the part that I've just created is this part here. If I turn some of the frame off, you can see that it's the same. I've applied a wooden material to this. I'm not going to show you how to do that yet. I'll apply all the materials at once at the end of the project. So the first part is done. The next thing I'm going to add are these blocks. Now, the blocks in mine, I've used a curvy line. You could use a curvy line or a straight line. It depends on your design. For this one, I'm going to use a combination of both to show you how to do it. So first of all, we need to turn the base into a component of its own. You can see here that I don't have any components listed. On this one, I have all the different parts and components with a name. On this one, the base has been created, but it hasn't appeared here yet. So that's the first step. To create a component from this, we need to find the body that makes it up, and as I've only drawn one body so far, it's easy to find. I'll right click on the body, and I'm going to click Create Component from Body, and as you can see, it has appeared here. It's good practice to rename your components so that you don't become confused later. So I'm going to type in base, I'm going to type in plywood, and I'm going to type in 4 millimeters, and that will remind me later which material I need to use when I laser cut it. The next thing I'm going to do is create the first part of my jigsaw. So at the top of the screen where you see it says unsaved, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say new component. Once I've done that, you can see the component appears here on the left hand side. It's called component 2:1, and I'm going to say create sketch, and I need to choose the top of the puzzle. You can see that there are different areas we could select to sketch. These two work planes here, the top of the object that I've already drawn, or the work plane that I selected the first time round. You need to ensure that you're drawing the blocks on top of the base, or this will not work. So I'm going to start the sketch, and I'm going to use the straight line tool to begin with, and I'm going to start by sketching a straight line here, and I'm going to bring it down like so. I'm not putting too much thought into the design of this puzzle. That's your job to come up with the design that you think is effective. This is just an exercise on how to actually draw the separate components. In order to extrude this, I need it to be a complete profile, and what that means is there should be no gaps around the edge. It's a bit like when we used Google SketchUp to draw the house design. It's the same idea. You need to make sure that you don't have any open edges on your profile. I've finished this sketch now. This is going to be the first part of my jigsaw, so I'm going to say stop sketch, and I'm going to say create extrude. Just close that. And I'm going to select the profile. You can see that it's easily selectable, and I'm going to extrude up. And this time, this is going to be an acrylic piece, and the acrylic that I want to use is 5mm thick, so I'm going to keep it as 5, and I'm going to say OK. If we rotate around now, you can see that that piece is sitting on top of the base. The base has gone a semi-translucent appearance, so that you know that you're not editing that part, and you are indeed working on a separate component. Now that I've finished that component, I'm going to right click and I'm going to change the appearance just so that I don't get confused later. It doesn't matter too much about which colour I use at the moment. I'm just going to drag the blue on there just so that I can keep them separate. I'm then going to say close, and I'm going to change the name of this component to block 1 so that I know it's my first block. If I go to the top of the screen now, you can see the little circle at the edge. This allows you to activate the component. So if I click activate component here, the base is activated and the block is deactivated. If I click block, the block is activated and the base is deactivated. If I go to the top and click active component, that activates all the live parts within the assembly, and I can see everything now. I'm ready to start creating my second block, so I'm going to right click again at the top of this modeling tree and click new component. I'm going to sketch, and I'm going to use the line tool again, and I'm going to sketch onto the top surface. This time I'm going to draw a more curved piece for the jigsaw. So I'm going to start with a line going at an angle, and then I'm going to select the spline tool. With the spline tool, you have to click to start the spline, and then as you click the mouse, it will allow you to add this curved line like so, and when you're ready to finish, I'm going to finish it by coming back around here and then finish it there. You double click and that will give you your spline. Again, we need to make sure this is a complete profile, so I'm going to continue with the line tool around the edge of the previous shape, like so. Or a quicker way is to go to sketch, project, and just project the lines that are already there into your new sketch. Now that I've finished this, I'm going to say OK, stop sketch. I'm going to change the angle using the orbit tool, and I'm going to say create extrude, select, and repeat the instruction from before, which was 5mm, and then I'm going to right click my mouse and change the appearance to a different colour. So this time I'll use the green. I'll close that, and I'll reactivate all components to see how that looks. As you can see, I now have base, block, and I have component 3. So I'm going to rename that one block 2 and say OK. I'm now ready to start creating the next piece of my puzzle. So I'll right click on the top, new component, sketch, use the line tool, click the top of the puzzle, draw the first line. So I'm going to use a triangle, say stop sketch, create, extrude, select profile, extrude by 5, right click, change the appearance, something different once again, say close, right click, click up here to activate the whole component, have a look, maybe even change the appearance of the base now, as it doesn't look right, change that to a wooden material, and as you can see, the parts of the jigsaw are coming together. I've still got some to add. I need to rename this. And then I'll repeat the process until I have all the parts on the jigsaw.